Thank you for staying with us. Senior Hamas official Bassem Naim announced today that the group is prepared to agree to a ceasefire in Gaza, provided Israel adheres to the terms. Naim called on U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to use his influence to pressure Israel to end the ongoing war. He outlined Hamas's key conditions for the ceasefire: a complete military withdrawal from Gaza, the return of displaced residents, a prisoner exchange deal, the entry of humanitarian aid, and the reconstruction of the territory. Naim emphasized that Hamas remains committed to any serious proposals meeting these terms. The call for a ceasefire comes after Qatar announced it was suspending its mediation role, citing a lack of seriousness from both Hamas and Israel in negotiations. The Gulf state, a long-standing mediator in the conflict, has hosted Hamas's political leadership since 2012 with the backing of the United States. The conflict, which escalated after Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7 last year, has resulted in devastating casualties on both sides. Official figures from Israel indicate that 1,206 people, mostly civilians, were killed in the initial attack. Meanwhile, retaliatory strikes by Israel have claimed the lives of 43,764 people in Gaza, predominantly civilians. This is according to the Hamas-run health ministry. On the campaign trail, President-elect Trump vowed to pursue peace in the Middle East, but also pledged stronger support for Israel. Whether his administration will engage in mediation remains uncertain as tensions persist in the region. Back home in Nigeria, emotions ran high today as the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, was laid to rest at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja, concluding a distinguished military career that spanned decades. The burial ceremony, which marked the culmination of 2 days of funeral rites, saw family members, colleagues, and dignitaries pay their final respect to the fallen hero. Lagbaja's casket, draped in the national green and white flag, arrived at the cemetery at exactly 3 p.m. in a white funeral wagon, following a solemn funeral service at the National Christian Center. His remains were committed to Mother Earth at 4:41 p.m. after an over 2-hour ceremony steeped in military tradition. The rites began earlier in the week with a service of songs held at the Army Headquarters Garrison Parade Ground, Mogadishu Cantonment, Abuja. On Thursday, his body was flown into Abuja aboard a Nigerian Air Force aircraft, which landed at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at 12:15 p.m. The president, as well as the new Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Defense Headquarters, as well as other dignitaries, Senate President, were in attendance today. A former director of the Department of State Services, Mike Ejiofor, has given a brief history of the terrorist group Lakurawa causing havoc in the northwestern part of the country. You recall that last week the Defense Headquarters announced the emergence of Lakurawa as a new terrorist group operating in Sokoto and Kebbi states. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, said the terror group has worsened the insecurity in the northwest region, but the Nigerian Army is containing them. However, Ejiofor, during an interview recently via Monitor television program Today, maintained that the group has been in existence and the government neglected them after the death of their founder. While giving a brief history of the insurgents' origin, the former DSS director noted that members of Lakurawa are not Nigerians, but are from Niger Republic and Mali respectively. According to Ejiofor, the part of the group from Mali left after the negotiation, but the other part of the group from Niger stayed behind and continued operation. On what the government and military should do to eradicate the terrorists, Ejiofor said that since the Lakurawa group is unlike Boko Haram, the government can use the opportunity to flush them out. Now, in another development, Professor of Law Chidi Odinkalu has commended the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereku, for sanctions imposed on some judges by the National Judicial Council. You recall that the NJC sanctioned 5 justices for breaching the rules of profession in various ways earlier today. The NJC reached the decision at its 107th meeting on the 13th and 14th of November 2024. Imo State Chief Judge Chukwuemeka Chikeke Chikeka and Grand Kadi of Yobe State, Honorable Kadi Babagana Makdi, were sanctioned for falsifying the wages. Also, Justice G.C. Aguma of Rivers State High Court and Justice A.O. Unwabunike of Anambra State High Court were suspended for a period of 1 year from performing their duties. The recommendation was pursuant to the findings of the council that His Lordship has two different dates of birth, 27th October 1956 and 27th October 1958. However, 27th October 1956 appeared to be the consistent date of birth, but in 2006, the Chief Judge swore to an affidavit changing the date of birth to 27th October 1958. The council held that Grand Kadi Makdi committed an act of misconduct in violation of Rule 02908, subsection 1 and 2 of the Public Service Rules 2021 and ought to have retired from service 12 years ago. However, in his reaction, the judicial reform, according to Professor Odinkalu, he disclosed that the Chief Justice of Nigeria did the right thing. He said, and I quote, Madam CJN Kudirat Kekiruku has acted swiftly on this matter of age falsification by the Chief Judge of Imo State. She has done the right thing the right way. Hopefully this sets a tone in the reshaping of judicial standards under her tenure as head of NJC. Meanwhile, the Kano State Judicial Service Commission has taken disciplinary actions against 8 judiciary staff members over misconduct. This was announced in a statement signed by the spokesperson for the Kano State Judiciary, Babajibo Ibrahim. The Judicial Service Commission, at a 76th meeting held in November, considered petitions against the judiciary staff and ordered 2 court registrars to go on compulsory retirement. The commission said an investigation by the Judiciary Public Complaints Committee regarding 2 petitions filed against Nasir Ado revealed that he conducted proceedings without record. When asked, he allegedly falsified and tampered with the record to show that there was a record of the proceeding. The commission adopted the recommendation of the JPCC that Mr. Ado's tampering with court records constituted gross misconduct and accordingly recalled him from judicial duties. It said the commission also issued a warning to Magistrate Sanusi Atana following 2 petitions against him, where he was found to have assumed the role of recovery of premises in a criminal trial and granted bail to a suspect before the date slated for ruling without notifying the prosecution. The JSC further directed the compulsory retirement of Salisu Adamu Nayola, Finance Registrar of Kiru Sharia Court, following a JPCC investigation that confirmed he accepted bribes to process inheritance entitlements. Mr. Nayola was accused of collaborating with Al-Khali Abdulmumini Nuhu, who has been recalled from judicial duties for 2 years and placed under the Chief Registrar's supervision. The JSC also strongly warned Al-Khali Abubakar Abdullahi of Takai Sharia Court Kano for handling Sabo Garuba Housing Estate Kabuga and Dora Yikwanar Makabata distribution case outside his jurisdiction. The commission advised him to strictly adhere to his territorial limits and avoid handling cases outside his jurisdiction. The statement added that after an investigation by the JPCC on the petition filed against a court messenger, Shuaibu Bello was also found to have engaged in an act of corruption by collecting money above the official amount charged for opening a file. The JSC also imposed compulsory retirement on Shamsu Abbas, a court registrar, for releasing a suspect on bail without the case being officially assigned to any court, ordering the suspect to make financial restitution. The JSC said it remains dedicated to ensuring that all judiciary personnel perform their duties within the boundaries of the law and with the utmost respect for judicial processes. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break where we'll head into a news analysis segment. This time around, I actually have Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid. He's a legal practitioner, a political and national and social affairs commentator. Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid, within his line of profession, will adequately be responding to some of the judicial cases that transpired today that I just read to you right here on the World News at 6. We get to hear his perception about the new ground norm of the NJC headed by Justice Kekere Okun and what the way forward is all about. Do kindly stay with us. Marisa Tunji, good evening and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6 this evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking your time to share your perspective this evening. Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid, let me start off with a judgment that was given today at the NJC, where about 5 justices were sanctioned for breaching the rules of profession in various ways today. Now, you remember that the NJC set up a panel to look at about 30 petitions sent to it, considering the fact that there are clamors on the judiciary exacerbating the political tension in Rivers and other states as well. They had actually asked that some sanctions should be placed on some justices who have continued the balkanization of the democratic process in Rivers. And apparently today action was taken based on what the NJC decided at its 107th meeting today. Now, apparently in the meeting, which was conducted day before yesterday, yesterday and today, I apologize for that, Imo State Chief Judge Chukwuemeka Chikeka and Grand Kadi of Yobe State, Honorable Kadi Babagana Makdi, was sanctioned for false for their ages, and also the Justice G.C. Aguma of Rivers State High Court and Justice A.O. Nwabunike of Anambra State High Court were suspended for a period of 1 year from performing their duties, and obviously there will be no pay. Their case is still being looked into, and others as well for contravening judicial processes. Others have said there are some certain justices they expected their names to be mentioned, those who have been frequently called on the dispositions or court judgments recently given in the Rivers states that has contributed to the quagmire in Rivers. What's your say on this development, sir?
Esther, let me say that. Look, I'm not sure the suspension of the recommendation of the NJC regarding the Rivers State judge.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with the pending electoral cases.
Okay.
It has to do. Yes, it has nothing to do with that. From what I've read, though, what the issue has to do with enforcing a judgment in the case that happens in Abuja, in Rivers State. That has to do with the Ganiti proceeding. Ganiti proceeding is a situation whereby I've gotten judgment that somebody is going me, or a judgment that says somebody to pay me, or I did not pay, and I ask the court to attach his account so that the money will pay to me. That is the one they call Ganiti. So he was punished for that, that something to do with the current time in Rivers State, as far as I know in that regard. So that is what happened in that one. I think this is what we are asking for. That's what I've been saying. That if we impose sanctions for any judges, allow it to decide, and it will serve as judgment for others. Then when judges are free to do whatever they like, I know that there won't be any sanctions, there won't be anything. So we continue to see what we are seeing and what we are having. And that's why you see conflicting judgment on where the further. So if this kind of sanction is regular, it's front. Because some of these ones some of them have been pending for 2020. The petitions have been pending for 2020. It's almost 4 years. If it's front and regular, it will actually correct in our system. In fact, the impunity by some judicial. So I think it's a commendable one, and it should be a regular exercise by the
Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid, I'm talking about the fact that, if you recall, there were about a lot of petitions written to the NJC considering the different court convictions given in Rivers. What I'm saying is that critics were expecting that they would have heard more than just one person's name mentioned amongst those who were supposedly sanctioned. Do you think that the NJC is still looking into most of these issues?
That's the point. It should be fun. Like some of these cases that have been damaged today. Some of the cases have been listed in 2020. Some of them are after that. So this one maybe thereafter will be looking to. It's not part of this. So they have a schedule, and that's why I say it should be prompt and regular. If it's prompt and regular, it will serve as different. Probably when they receive president regarding that will take another year or two to look into. So it's not good for us. Let it be prompt and regular. Probably there's no petition, and probably there are petitions already. If there is not petition, NJP will not be involved in it, and there won't be any what's it called? activities regarding that. So maybe probably there are no petitions, there are petitions and then it's not been looked into. If there are, they will be looked into it.
All right, Barrister Tunji, in Kano State, right, the Judicial Service Commission there has taken disciplinary actions against 8 judiciary staff members over misconduct. Apparently, some of them were caught illegally releasing convicts, that is suspects, without prosecution or any judge giving that particular conviction that they should either be released on bail. Also, some of them were caught falsifying court documents, registrars granting suspects bail, also caught collecting bribes. These are the endemic issues that are being talked about within the Nigerian judicial system. This is one of the questions that was raised about the fact that the NJC is supposed to be the third estate of the realm and should be above certain nuances. This is one nuance that is already coming to light, which a lot of Nigerians feel it's already on the know. What would you say concerning this development of sanitizing the entire system? And when do you think the Nigerian Bar Association as well will stoke in, put in more fire to call out a lot of these persons that have been causing infraction and have put the integrity of the NJC to question?
I think with this step taken by the NJC today, I think they started to say that they are not only battling, they can bite. And that's what has been lacking for now. So we need to commend the Chief Justice of Nigeria for this. He has done well in that regard because for long, people have not been punished for this kind of impunity that has been given against them. So having people looking at it at all, the petition and coming up with a recommendation as to what to happen to them, I think we need to commend the CJN. And what we should just push for is that it should be more prompt and often, and then that will also help more in sanitizing the judiciary. But I think this is commendable, although it may not be enough. At least we are seeing the starting point.
Barrister Tunji, thank you so much for that. Let's look at a scenario where there are questions concerning the continuity of this process, understanding the fact that since the 2027 general elections are one that is very close, the political scene is being keenly observed. Alliances are being formed, some alliances are being destroyed for new ones to emerge. But there is a big question mark on the NJC playing a huge role concerning the decision of Nigerians during the 2027 elections. A couple of persons say they do not want a repeat of what transpired in the 2023 elections, and that the NJC should do something about it, whereby the voice of the people at the ballot, at the polling unit, is what resonates at the end of the day if the cases are taken to court. Do we think that with this strategy of supposedly sanitizing or cleansing the NJC, that there is there's light at the end of the tunnel, or there's a ray of hope that indeed the NJC through this process will reflect that in 2027 when the general elections will take place?
Like I said, I think, we need to comment.
Barrister Tunji, where are you precisely? There's a lot of noise at the background.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm on the road.
Okay, you can proceed.
We need to commend the NJC for this. But like I said, it's Dr. Glad. You see, the point out whether or not the NJC has the judges good right in the election is subjective. We do not see what they file in court. In opinion of the public, they may assume they not do the right thing. The judges may have done the right thing. I'm talking about law, I don't know. We need to also give them that a benefit of doubt. What we need to see is transparency and accountability. Once the transparency is there, people will have that respect for the judiciary. Because sometimes we determine cases without being defied before the court. And the court will not determine cases based on what people say on social media. They will look at the fact before them. So that's why sometimes I don't condemn judges. I can share my opinion on it. That does not mean I will say it's gone wrong. So until we see, because it's a different thing from like a difference between you having a good case and a different thing from having to present your case very well. You can have a good case and not present it very well, and in that case you will lose your case. That does not mean the judiciary has done the wrong thing, or they've done partial. So there are two different things. You can get bad case, and when your case is bad, and you have a lawyer who can make it for you very well, and the other party fails to do the right, you can defend yourself very well. So it's a matter of, it's not a matter of it's subjective. There are so many factors that consider.
All right. All right. In a situation where the NJC has actually asked Nigerian governors to appoint 36 new judges, they recommended 36 candidates for judicial appointment to their various state governors. What do you think this aims to establish?
Can you come again?
I said the National Judicial Council recommended 36 candidates for judicial appointment to their various state governors. And I asked you, what do you think this aims to establish?
We have been talking about the law in our system. So when there are vacancies, they must be filled. And that is the problem that they are trying to do. They are trying to fill the vacancies in the judicial system. So every state the appointment of judges from each state must be approved by the NJC. Probably that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to ensure that, look, we have enough judges wherever they are needed.
All right. Now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has stated that there is nothing wrong in building houses for judges. You know that human rights lawyer Femi Falana stated that the construction of houses for judges and justices by the Ministry of the Federal Capital Territory was unconstitutional and embarrassment of the judiciary. In September, you remember that the FEC approved the construction of 40 housing units for judges and justices in the FCT. Of the 40 units being constructed in Katampe district, 20 will be allocated to the SCT High Court. Now, Wike's Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and New Media, Lere Olayinka, described Falana's position as patently wrong and a mere display of emotions and sentiments against the FCT minister. Do you believe that as well?
I think Lere Olayinka does not. I don't believe Lere Olayinka is the position of Lere Olayinka. I agree with the position of Lanet Falana. You see, the point we are making here, because people are trying to spin the story to say that we are saying that judges do not have a house to sleep.
Yes.
We are saying that judges will be taken anywhere. No. We know we have 3 hours of government.
Yes.
If there's anything to be given to a judge, it's abnormal. It's abnormal for a executive member to be buying a car, to be buying houses or anything. But
Lere is saying that there is nothing wrong in the federal government providing accommodation for judges as well as officials of other arms of government.
I did not say so.
No, that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm trying to explain. That look, they are trying to spin and they go and buy the mind of those who are not knowledgeable enough to understand the situation. They are not saying judges not be given houses or whatever. What they are saying is that the appropriate authority to build houses for judges, to buy stuff for judges, is NJC, headed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The money, just like National Assembly, when National Assembly wants to buy stuff, it is not the president that will buy the cars and buy to them. They buy it by themselves from their allocation. So if judges, if there is a need for judges to have houses or have cars, the NJC will be the one to do that. And that's why NJC has their own budget. And if they are buying cars, that will be part of the budget for the NJC. It will not be for the executive. That will the independence of the judiciary. Because when you give me car, when you build houses for me, you have an influence on me. For instance, let me give you a simple instance. Governor Minister Wike today.
Yes.
He's being supported by some people or being seen as a man that deserves what he's doing in the PDP now. Just because they said when other people are not doing anything, he was one sponsoring the party. So are you telling me if this man is giving houses to judges today now, we need not come back tomorrow and tell us that when judges don't have houses, I buy houses for them. Therefore, if I need to, they also do it. Everything like that. You know, if you will impair the independence of it, if you give me money, if I come to your house to visit you and you treat me well, there is no way you will need a paper from me. I will not, whether directly or indirectly, I will assist to it. So all I'm saying is that judiciary must be independent. And for them to be independent, they must be mentally independent. If you allow governors, if you allow ministers, if you allow the president to start buying cars for them, buy houses for them, they should impair on their positions. The ministry,
all right,
they have cases with them. So it is not proper as far as I'm concerned.
But
the sentiment is that, look, we just want to ensure that they have houses. No, that's not enough. We are not saying they don't have houses. NJBJ should be the one to provide for them.
Okay. Well, very, very smart response, that, because it was quite confusing when, Olayinka was trying to speak on behalf of, his principal. He said that even though there is separation of powers in a democracy, there is also what is known as checks and balances, admittedly true, meaning that there can be no absolute separation of powers among the three arms of government. In other words, he said there is nowhere in the world where one arm of government is completely independent of the others. How do you help us clarify what this means?
Only I can clarify that. I can only accept my own opinion regarding that.
Yes.
I think it's misplacing it's trying to defeat people who are not knowledgeable enough to understand the issue. Sometimes you use sentiment to buy people up. And that's what he's trying to do. Don't inside the politician. He's one of the former commissioner also during SCC. He has been a spokesperson. So he's talking like a politician and trying to play politics with it. The point is that we are talking about independence of democracy.
Yes.
Of the house of government. I am to check it. I am to check it. And you are buying things from me. When it comes to what I am to mark your exam, your paper, and you have been buying books for me. When you do your paper and it's sent to me, will I be able to pay you if you do not pass the exam? No. So the point is that, look, as long as you are giving things to the member of the judiciary and they are collecting, when the time comes, when they are supposed to do the right thing,
all right,
you are giving to them, they influence their decisions.
All right.
That applies to what happened in Lagos State. When the governor of Lagos State posted the CBN to a party, it's not done. It's not done. You're not supposed to do that.
Because, Barrister Tunji, there's quite a lot of blurry lines here, which is why I'm asking you these questions. Because I thought there is a sanctity of purpose when it comes to each person in their line of duty. And when it comes to the NJC or when it comes to the judiciary, there should be this blind hole as to how justice is being dispensed. But it seems lines are being crossed. For example, Lere is asking senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, that, okay, the money to build the houses will still have to be appropriated by the National Assembly, peopled by politicians who also have cases before judges. Should we also say that bringing the budget of the judiciary to the National or State House of Assembly for passage will influence judges if cases involving the lawmakers are brought before them? Police and other security agencies provide security for judges, and they do have court cases too. Is Uncle Femi Falana also saying that the security agencies will influence the judges? He went ahead to say that anti-corruption agencies like the EFCC and all, he was defending and calling out all these sensitive agencies. So exactly what is he defending with what you have just explained?
Esther, he's taking the point. The National Assembly or House of Assembly passing the budget,
yes,
is a possibility under the law. So that in Nigeria, when somebody is doing his job as required by law, we see it as a favor. It's not a favor. That is a responsibility under the law. There is no way in the law where it is stated that a minister must be in the house for the judge. So that is different. When National Assembly are cleaning or utilizing a bill of budget, they are not doing it to favor the judiciary. They are doing their responsibility as provided by the law. So it's not a favor. So don't do anybody. But this one, giving out to them, is a favor because they are not required by law to do it. They are not under obligation to do it. So but that part of bill or budget is the responsibility of the National Assembly. They can't say they will not do it. So because they are not the same thing at all. They are not the same thing at all.
All right, fine. All right, finally, if I let you go, activist Deji Adeyoju, who is also a lawyer, today suggested a solution to the political impasse between Governor Sim Fubara of Rivers State and the federal minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Adeyoju charged Fubara to challenge Wike headlong as a measure towards resolving the political crisis in the state. And this was a statement he addressed during a press conference. He said nothing can make Wike back down in a fight, hence the need for Fubara to confront him headlong. Do you think that will resolve the political impasse in the state if Fubara decides to go or toe the line of advice that the Adeyoju is given?
The answer is confront the job. What was the answer again? Clearly.
No, he's actually asking Fubara to challenge Nyesom Wike headlong. That it's a measure towards resolving the political crisis in the state. He should challenge him directly. He should not go around and all of that. Now that's the only way. Nyesom Wike doesn't like a confrontation. So if he's able to challenge him, then definitely there'll be supposedly an impasse in the tension, between the both of them. I'm asking you, do you think that will actually work well?
He's been doing that, but that does not guarantee the resolution of the matter.
Okay.
The resolution of the matter in this case, they are not having a resolution in this matter because of the stand of the former governor. The former governor is that person. Once he has a mindset of to do anything, no matter anybody say, what can anybody say? His own position must be the one to stand. That's why they are not able to resolve the matter. So there is nothing the governor can do that will get Mr. Wike to back down. That was exactly what he did during the election. What he made up his mind, that is why I'm going. And I want that his position to be accepted by everybody. He's the only person that is white. He knows everything. And whatever he stands, everybody will stand there. So, and you see today now, the governor has no choice that will stand up to him. There is nothing he can do. There is nothing. Even if the governor said it, that he has laid down verbally for him. So once that fails, what next again? It's a sort of police and the challenging headlong. That's everybody needs.
All right, Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid, thank you so much for giving us your insight on some of the questions posed at you, despite the fact that you're not really in a comfortable location to respond. But I sincerely appreciate you picking the call and responding to some of those questions.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Happy Friday. All right, to wrap up here again are the top stories. Hamas ready for ceasefire, urges Trump to pressure Israel. Tears tribute as late Chief of Army Staff Lagbaja laid to rest in Abuja. Former DSS Director Ejiofor reveals origin of Lakurawa insurgents. Professor Chidi Odinkalu hails Kekere Eko for taking action on defaulting judges. That's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wanchuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.